Members of the Imperial Academy, welcome back to another training video. Today, we are discussing the second part in our LS series of weapons guides. Today we're talking about the LS-1999DM, or as it's colloquially known as the Double Bladed Lightsaber. Similar to the LS-1977, the LS-1999 is a variation of the traditional LS series of weapons. As you can very clearly tell, in addition to having a single blade emitting out of one end, the hilt has been enlarged to accommodate the functionality of a second blade emitter. Now, as you can tell, this one is far longer than your typical LS series of weapons. As a result, there is a much different fighting style that is needed to wield this weapon properly. It is a little bit trickier than your normal LS series of weapons. Now, these are not new, these are actually very old designs. This one is, by all accounts, a very standard model that you would normally see, and we'll talk about who wielded this one in just a little bit. Kenobi! But as for the weapon itself, it does require a little bit more training to get used to. I'm sure, as many of you know, if you have a different weapon platform, you got to train just a little bit differently to get pretty good at it. A lot of you guys from some of the Outer Rim territories might know the similarities between ARs and AKs. Kind of same thing here. Different functionality, different approach, different manual of arms. But all things considered, they still functionally do the same thing. They're an energy blade that can cut through almost anything except for very, very limited amount of material, Beskar being one of them. Your armor is not going to withstand an attack from one of these. So as we said in the LS-1977 video, you're going to have to be very careful if you ever come across any enemies that are wielding a weapon such as this. Now, like we talked about in the previous installment of this particular weapon series, the LS series of weapons is nothing new. Traditionally, these weapons were wielded by what we now know as the former institute that was the Jedi Order. Now, I'm sure a lot of you know this, but we're going to give a little bit of a brief history over the LS series of weapons. The LS series of weapons was developed thousands of years ago by the Jedi Order for the Jedi Knights. They utilize kyber crystals inside with a focusing chamber that takes the energy from the crystal, emits it through an emitter, focuses it, and then with a little bit of quite literal space magic, out comes a predetermined blade length. Now, some of the LS series of weapons have dual phase functions, and this weapon just so happens to have one on both ends of the emitter. Basically, what that means is that it can lengthen or shorten the blade to a predetermined set based on the will of the user. And as we said in the previous video, most of the time, the wielders usually do have some sort of ulterior force that they are able to utilize to activate not only the weapons themselves, but the switches as well, without having to physically touch them. I am not at liberty to discuss the religious natures of the Jedi Order, or even the particular member of an order that this particular weapon used to belong to. I am by no means an expert in that field. I'm just a simple grunt trying to give you guys as much information as I can so that hopefully you guys don't get killed out in the field and you guys can get back to your home worlds and see your wife and kids. From the information that we've been able to gather, as well as people who have formerly worked with the Jedi Order, as well as the order that this particular blade comes from, is that traditionally the crystals that give the weapon not only the blade itself, they also determine the blade's color. Now, hear me out, this is a little bit of a tangent, but you're going to learn something, maybe not something that could save you in combat, but something that I find pretty fascinating. Now, from what we do know is that during the initiation phase and the graduation phase of being a youngling and into the ability to be a Padawan, the younglings would travel to a planet known as Ilum, where they would go and find and choose their own crystals. Now go with me on this thing a little bit. It gets a little bit crazy. So from what we understand is that through either their own feelings or through either something within their religious sect, they would find and choose a crystal. And then based off of that individual's personality, traits, characteristics, wants, desires, all that good stuff, the crystal would then go from just the base color to whatever color it would end up being. Now, this can be blue, purple, yellow. The two most common that you're going to run into are blue and green.
Blue, yellow, and green.
Now, red is not a particular color that you would end up seeing within the Jedi Order. I think we've only ever seen and have records of a handful of true Jedi Knights and Masters wielding red lightsabers. Now, why is this one red? Well, because there is an order that we do know of through history and legend that died out thousands of years ago that did imbue red-bladed sabers. And this was the antithesis to the Jedi Order, which was the Order of the Sith, or the Sith Empire as it was known back in the day. Two running theories based off of the reports and of the myths and legends that we've seen throughout the galaxy. There's two ways that you get a red lightsaber. Technically there's three, but the third one is so unbelievably rare. We've only ever seen one instance of it happening, and I'm not even fully familiar with the instance itself, so I'm not even going to include it. So bleeding a crystal is the more religious, spiritual aspect of it, and synthetics is a little bit more my speed. So bleeding by legend is essentially when somebody who is a member of the Sith Order would take a crystal from a fallen Jedi and bleed the crystal, which is where the red comes into play. That's one theory on this. Now, the second theory is the synthetic theory, which I'm a little bit more hyped on. And through alchemy, they would create synthetic crystals that would end up being actually more durable and stronger, and imbue the blades with some interesting features that would either shatter or deactivate the blades of the Jedi that they fought. Remember, these guys were warrior monks, but they were very, very proficient in hand-to-hand combat. So those are the two main ways that you would end up getting a red blade like this one. But as for this particular blade, this blade is not unknown to the public at large. So as I said previously, we don't have any Sith to talk about. But what we do have is we do have a couple of accounts of some famous Sith throughout history that wielded double-bladed LS series of weapons. Most particularly, this one came from the first Sith in record from the last couple hundred years to close to 1,000. And that would be the Zabrak Sith warrior Darth Maul, hence the DM nomenclature of this particular model. Now, as far as Maul's whereabouts, Maul fell at the Battle of Naboo. His saber, this is all very well documented. This isn't like hearsay or anything like that. But Maul fell at the Battle of Naboo, and even though his saber was damaged throughout the process, our Imperial technicians were able to salvage the pieces throughout history and reconstruct it for educational purposes for you guys here today. Now, the Maul saber that we have here is a fairly basic double-bladed saber. And we have some examples of some other double-bladed sabers throughout history. During the Clone Wars, every so often you would see the CIS, ever so often you would see the Confederacy, one of their lead generals, Asajj Ventress, who we believe was a part of the Sith Order, but we're not entirely sure. She was very close with the Confederate leader Count Dooku, but that's neither here nor there. She had two curved hilted blades that would end up connecting to each other to form a double blade, although most of the time she did brandish them as the two individual sabers. Now, one that I do find very, very interesting throughout history is the double-bladed saber of the ancient Sith, former Jedi, Exar Kun. Now, Exar Kun's is a little bit interesting. Exar Kun had a normal length hilt for his blade. So this is a little interesting. Remember when I said that there was that dual phase function, that different blade lengths would give you different advantages? This is sort of what plays into that a little bit. Exar Kun's single blade length, but with both of the blades coming out at either end, gave him some very unique fighting abilities and angles of attack that most Jedi really weren't capable of doing. Even something like this is still a lot of mass to move around. So having something that is so close to hand that you can essentially wield with one hand while having your other hand free definitely opens up a lot of avenues to attack. There's a couple other double-bladed sabers that we've seen throughout history that are a little bit more traditional, such as this one. I know that the Jedi had a Grand Master way back in the day that she had a blue double-bladed saber. I think she fought, God, I want to say during like the Sith War or something like that. I can't remember her name. I'll have to look it up. I'll go ahead and put it in the description down below. Definitely an old Republic era gal. I like the simplicity of some of the classic designs, but again, this isn't about what we like. This is about informing you guys about specific types of weapons that you may or may not see out in the field and sort of how to combat them. Although, if you do run into somebody wielding something like this, your day's probably going to end up being pretty shit. Because not only do the people who usually wield these things have a pretty good proficiency in blocking blaster fire, but they're also usually pretty quick on the draw. And unless you have a Death Star waiting in the wing, I don't see any of us winning that fight. Gentlemen, this has been another entry into the Imperial Weapons Guide, specifically in the series of going over the LS series models of weapons wielded by the Knights of the Jedi Order and the Sith Empire. This has been pretty fun to go over. I hope you guys got a little bit of enjoyment out of this, as well as a little bit of information that hopefully can maybe, I don't know about save you, but definitely make you a little bit more aware of what you're going up with. Maybe if you're not the one that gets saved, then maybe you pass on some information to the next guy so that he can have a little bit of heads up. Once again, this has been the LS1999DM variant, recovered from the first appearance of the former Sith Lord Darth Maul on the planet of Naboo. And it's been in the Imperial archives ever since, and I want to thank the Empire for going ahead and giving us this ability to take this thing out of the armory and record some content for all of you guys so that you all are a little bit more prepared going out into the field. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Hey guys, May the 4th be with you. I hope you're all having a fantastic Star Wars day. And it's not only May the 4th, but today's also the season finale of Maul Shadowlord. And I don't know about you guys, but I basically checked out of everything Star Wars after The Rise of Skywalker. Really kind of halfway through, because I walked out of the movie. And I've been very wishy-washy with shows and things. A couple good things in Mandalorian, but all in all, I just haven't been jiving with the way the franchise is going until Maul. And I gotta say, I have been just incredibly impressed. So with May the 4th this year, I figured it was only appropriate to visit Darth Maul's his first lightsaber. Not his one that he's using in the show. This was a little bit of a last minute video. We had a couple original plans that we did try to get, but ultimately we ended up, with it being the season finale, wanted to talk a little Maul, and I kind of like the LS series. If you get that, good on you. But I want to do more iconic lightsabers as well. Mainly gives me an excuse to collect them, and I also want to go ahead and thank the sponsors of the video. They kind of help keep everything going. That's Oscar 4Fox. They are doing the combat hooded shirts, and if you guys want, go ahead and use Trooper at checkout to get free shipping on any of the combat hooded shirts. You can fill them up with as many shirts as you want. Use code Trooper, and you'll get free shipping on the whole thing. So they're coming out with a bunch of new stuff pretty soon, so look forward to some of that. And we're definitely going to be hopping back on the Modern Warfare train here pretty soon, but had to take a detour for Star Wars Day. So yeah, Darth Maul's lightsaber, pretty cool. I'm actually pretty impressed with this thing, and my friends have been getting a pretty good kick out of it. So thank you guys so much, seriously, for checking the video out. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Hope you guys are enjoying the channel, and let me know what you thought of Maul Shadowlord, or if you just straight up canceled everything Disney, Star Wars as soon as they bought it. Whatever, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one. Catch you later.